goal, not only as a coach, but just simply as a human being, is I want to leave every single human interaction I have by filling somebody else's bucket, by giving them energy. If I'm with one of you in an elevator for 2 stops, we're in the elevator for 12 seconds, I will either smile, I'll say good morning. You might not even understand me if you don't speak English, but you will feel my energy and it will raise your level, even if it's just a little bit. And I think if you make every single person you're around better, you make an energy deposit to them, that becomes contagious. That's what I want with our players. I'm a big believer in practice. So you give instructions on a drill. You tell players how to do a drill. There's only 2 things that they can do with those instructions. 2 things. They can either do what you ask correctly, or they can do what you ask incorrectly. There is nothing in between. So here's why there can never be a quiet practice. If you tell me how to do something and I do it correctly, you and my teammates should be praising me. Good job, Alan, that was great footwork. Way to keep your foot pointed, or whatever it was that you told me to do. So I should hear being reinforced that I'm doing it well. If I'm doing it incorrectly, maybe I misunderstood you. Maybe I'm a dumbass and I wasn't even listening to you. Maybe I don't understand what you told me, but for whatever reason I'm doing it wrong, then you and all of my teammates should care enough about me to tell me that, to coach me, to correct me. See, it's important that we let them understand, and I know you guys already know this. If you are the head coach of your team, if you are the only coach on that team, you'll never be very good. You'll never get as good as you can be. And it's not deferring to your assistants either. If you don't have 12 or 15 coaches on the floor and coaches at practice all of the time, your team will never maximize its ability. They need to learn to hold each other accountable. I need to care enough about Till as his teammate that if he does something wrong, I tell him because I care about him. But you know what? I also care about myself because we're all inherently selfish beasts as human beings. And if Till is doing something incorrectly, he's hurting the team. He's hurting a team that I'm a part of. So when he does something incorrectly, in an indirect way, he's taking away from me. Can't have that. And that's the crazy thing. See, it's in our DNA as human beings to be selfish. All of us are selfish. I have 3 young children, twin 6-year-old boys and a 4-year-old daughter. And for those of you that have kids can appreciate. Do you think I've had to teach my kids how to be selfish? Hell no. Give me mine. They were born to be selfish. What do I have to teach them? I have to teach them how to share. I have to teach them how to give. I have to teach them to do the other things. I love me. I love myself. When I wake up in the morning, nobody here needs to remind me to look out for myself. I do that on my own. Trust me. You know what you need to remind me to do? To care about you. To care about you. To care about my teammates. To be unselfish. That's what we have to constantly remind each other of because that does not come natural to any of us. We are taught to worry about ourselves and not worry about other people. But we've all chosen to be a part of a game that has the exact opposite mindset. That the best teams and the best players put others first. A guy like Steve Nash cares as much about everybody around him as he cares about himself. Steve Nash gets just as much of a high scoring with an assist than he does scoring on his own. So those are the things that we have to constantly make sure we reinforce. And it's tough because players, for some reason, and I don't know if it's the same here as it is in the States, they don't like to hold each other accountable. They don't like to tell a teammate that they're not doing something wrong. They don't like to tell a teammate, Till, this is bullshit, man. You need to work a lot harder. If we're going to be better, you need to start working harder. They don't say that to each other. Coaches say it, but players don't say it to each other. And I'll tell you this, it actually means more coming from the players than it does from us. If I'm Till's coach, after the first couple of months of me telling him to quit bullshitting around and work harder, he's just going to eventually tune me out a little bit. No offense, Simon, but it's true. He won't from his teammates. His teammates, he cares because they're his peers. So if you can create an environment where everybody holds everybody accountable, you'll be the best team that you're capable of being. Now that doesn't promise you a championship. What it does promise you is maximizing what you have. And if you have talented players and you can get them to be unselfish and you can get them to have chemistry, that's how you win championships. And you will overachieve regardless, trust me. I was at DeMatha for 6 years and I was at Montrose Christian for the 7 years before that. And we have very, very talented teams and players. But there were some years where we weren't as talented and we overachieved because our players were willing to buy into that. And that's the other thing I'll leave you with before we keep this warm-up going. Don't worry so much about rules, worry about standards. Talk to your team and create standards. Get them to buy in. We're going to create a standard that every single person will be 15 minutes early to every practice. Does everybody agree to that on our team? You will be 15 minutes early to every single practice. Do we all agree? And as soon as they all agree, that is a standard. Which means, if you come 5 minutes before practice, you just broke a standard that you agreed to. You signed, and you're not holding up your end of the bargain, which now we all know is unacceptable. So I don't even really need to get on him. I'll use Till, because I know Till's name. Till, what's up? We were supposed to be here 15 minutes ago. You know that's unacceptable, right? Yes, coach, I understand. He knows because he helped create the standard. So when you leave here, if you haven't already, create a system of standards with your players. Get them to buy in. Don't tell them to be here 15 minutes early. Ask them if that's something that they're willing to do. That in order for us to be a championship team, we need you here 15 minutes early so we can mentally and physically prepare. Is that something you're willing to do? And if you get everybody to say yes, it is now a standard for your team. And if you can come up with 10 to 12 to 15 standards that they have a vested interest in because they contributed, it's not you telling them what to do, then you've got something special. Okay, you can set the basketballs down, you guys can spread out anywhere behind me. We're gonna go through a mobility series now. And stay in close because we'll make sure everybody's in the frame for the camera. Most of what we do from a training standpoint will always be done from a ground-based standing position because that's how the game of basketball is played. But there's actually a series of things you can do in what's called a quadruped position, which means I'm going to be on all fours to help develop great basketball athleticism and mobility. Now, the quadruped position that most people are familiar with is the one that looks like a push-up. However, if you guys were to take a picture of me right now and then flip your phone 90 degrees, this is what a push-up looks like when I'm standing. This is not a very athletic position for your players to be in. So for this series, I don't want them in this position. I want their legs bent, I want their hips high, I want their arms bent, palms spread. I want them to be in this position here, but I want them on the ground. So they're going to get in this position right here. Go ahead and get down, guys. Notice that my feet are a little bit wider than my hips, my hands are directly under my shoulders, my legs are bent, my butt's in the air, my face is looking straight down. Now, having them just hold this position, even for 30 to 40 seconds, is really challenging. It requires some upper body strength, it requires some core stability. These guys can do it fairly well because they're older. If I had my 3 younger players over here, it would be more challenging. That's okay, this is a great time to introduce this. Okay, here's what we're gonna do, guys. Make sure you stay in this position. You're gonna start to try and cheat and put your legs out because it makes it more comfortable. I don't want you to do that. When I say go, all I want you to do is keep your hands on the ground, face facing the ground, and just turn your hips and put your left butt cheek on the ground, and then pop up. Right cheek, pop. So we're just gonna go like a windshield wiper, back and forth. We're gonna go for about 30 seconds. Keep everything nice and tight. Ready to go? Try to bring your feet close to your body. Bring your feet up high. There you go. Yep, keep going. Yep, keep going. And time. And you just kneel for a second just to get a chance to relax. Good job. Okay, now we'll add another element to it. So now from here, I'm going to turn. I'm going to kick this leg through, and I'm going to put this hand up. So I'm supporting my entire body by my right leg and my left arm. I'm going to freeze and I'm going to hold here. I'm going to stabilize everything in my hips and core, and I'm simply going to hold. And then I'll pop straight back. So we'll pop, hold, pop, hold. All right, let's give that a try. Let's keep going back and forth. Ready, go. Yep. There you go. Yes, there you go. About 10 seconds left. And relax. This is great for building upper body strength and stability in the core. Okay, now from this position here. Yeah, and everything we do, we level up. This time you're going to do what's called a Spider-Man step. So I'm going to step this foot up. I want you to try to get your fingers in front of your hands. And now I'm going to kick through, do the same thing, but I'm going forward. You need a ton of hip mobility to do this. And then I'll bring it back. So if you want to count it to yourself, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's target. go for time or you can go for reps. I'll play right now, and you guys can relax. You do this for 45 to 60 seconds straight, it's a killer. It's a killer. And that's the other thing, and I say this very respectfully. You guys sitting in the cheap seats here can't quite appreciate how difficult this stuff is unless you do it. I recommend that you at least try the stuff that you're going to have your players do. For one reason, it gives you empathy. Empathy is one of the most important tools in our toolbox. Empathy means, by definition, you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It is real easy, and I'm not implying that you guys are, to sit here and watch this and not think it's very hard. And then, 40 seconds into it, you're screaming at Till, "Come on, Till, get your legs up, come on, man!" And Till's like, "Fuck you, you've never done this, ever. Ever. How do you know?" Excuse my language, sorry. You have no idea. So you need to have some empathy. It does not mean that you need to be in the same shape as your players. It does not mean that you need to do everything that they can do at the same high level and intensity. It means you need to try it so that you have an understanding of it. I'm also a big believer that the best way to teach anything is after you've already experienced it. So try these things. You don't have to try it in front of your players if you're worried about looking foolish. Go home tonight and try it in your living room. Family's away, do whatever you need to do. Just give it a try. Because I'm telling you now, even tonight, you go home and you put the clock on your phone and you just try to hold this position for 60 seconds. And after 30 of it, when you start shaking like this, you're like, okay, now I've got a little bit more love for my players. They really were trying as hard as they could. I think it's a great tool for all of us to have as coaches. Awesome job, guys. Let's go ahead and flip it over to the crab position. So now we're on all fours, but we're face up. And you're simply going to drive your hips and your hand to the sky as high as you can, and then put it right back down. So you want hips to the ground, hips to the sky, alternating back and forth. Hips to the ground, hips to the sky. Yeah, that's it.